What is MSRP on boats, and is it a number that you should really be paying attention to? We're going to find out. What's up, guys? This is Mitch from Boardco. Today, I'm going to be talking and breaking down a subject that is brought up all of the time and that has been for years and years and years and seems to actually become an issue that is becoming more prevalent. And I am also going to talk to you about what we're doing about it. And that is the discussion about boat MSRP. So MSRP, so you know what we're talking about, it stands for Manufacturer's Suggested Retail Price. Now, this is a term that is not just in the boat industry. It exists in the automotive industry. It exists in virtually every industry that's out there. And what it means is saying, hey, the manufacturer cannot tell a dealership what they can sell something for. They can't tell an auto dealership what they can sell something for. They can't tell a boat dealership what they can sell a boat for. In the case of like Boardco, we buy a boat from Centurion or Supreme, and then we have the ability to sell it for whatever we want. I could sell a new RI 245 for $12.50 if we wanted to do that. We're not going to, but we could. The reason why that exists is because otherwise it violates different franchise agreements and things of that nature, and it's infringement of trade. And there's all kinds of laws that are set that says that a vendor cannot tell us what we can sell a boat for. They can tell a dealer what they can advertise selling a boat for, because that could be very detrimental to a certain brand. It's the reason why you can't go and find Apple iPhones available for $30 for a new iPhone 14. So that exists specifically for the reason of keeping the integrity of the manufacturer of the brand in the marketplace. But so the reason why MSRP exists is that the manufacturer can give a number that's saying, hey, this is what we suggest that a retailer sells that product for. So you have MSRP on all kinds of products, clothing to electronics to all kinds of things, including automobiles. Well, a number of years ago, automotive manufacturers started having MSRP and saying, hey, this is the price of the vehicle. But because of the environment that existed with negotiation and things of that nature surrounding automobiles, they started saying, hey, you can get $4,000 off of MSRP on this vehicle. And what's happened is that it started in the automotive world, it's also translated over to the power sports world and into the marine industry, of MSRP not actually being a number that is something a boat or a car or whatever is sold for. Instead, it becomes this somewhat fictitious number that's a benchmark of how good of a deal you are getting. Where, well, if you start out with that being the case, it kind of makes sense. But what ends up happening is when every single vehicle or every single boat is sold at, let's say, $20,000 off of MSRP, is it really MSRP anymore? Or is it just a fictitious number? And what has happened over the last number of years is that MSRP went from being a number that people actually sold items for in the automotive world and in the marine space to a number that has become progressively more arbitrary and progressively more a number that actually carries no meaning or value whatsoever. In the automotive world, they've actually started to try to walk this back a little bit. COVID gave them a big bump. So if you notice, I'm sure you probably remember, back in 2020, 2021, even 2022, and even to today, there's certain vehicles that are selling at or even above MSRP. That's not typically the case. Normally, if you saw a vehicle listed for $50,000, there was probably a pretty good chance you'd be able to buy it for 45 or maybe 43 or maybe 47. Probably not 30, but probably also not 49.8. And that's previously kind of how it existed, but the exact number you just never really knew. You didn't know what the actual price is that dealership was planning on selling the car for. And if you happen to be a sucker that came in and paid $50,000 on this car that's $50,000 MSRP, you kind of got hosed, but your job was to work them down from that specific number. Well, in the boat world, things have taken a similar type of path to that, except for there's no efforts to try and right that ship in regards to the post-pandemic situation. In fact, if anything, we're getting worse. We're getting way worse. And that's what I wanted to talk about and break down today a little bit, is the subject of MSRP what it means, should you be paying attention to it, what are all the different factors. All of the frequently asked questions surrounding manufacturer's suggested retail price and pricing of boats. Now, what has taken place over the last number of years is that, similar to what automobiles had, there were a handful of dealerships back in 2020, 2021 that were selling boats at MSRP. Now, this kind of made sense from a supply-demand curve, but the problem is that even before the pandemic, MSRP was set up to be a fictitious number. Nobody sold boats at MSRP. And even during the pandemic, like us at Boardco, we didn't sell boats at MSRP because it was this completely arbitrary and overinflated number that didn't exist as an actual benchmark, but instead now shifted to where it existed specifically as a marketing term. So that you can go on and see, hey, we've got $30,000 off of MSRP, $50,000 off of MSRP. We're even now at $70,000+ off of MSRP. Well, I can tell you, if you have a boat that's $200,000 that you'd be paying, and you're getting $70,000 off MSRP, there's nobody that's paying $270,000 for that boat. And so what does that number mean? Well, to be real, it doesn't mean anything. How is that number decided? Well, the manufacturer just makes it up. There's no industry standards, there's no benchmarks, there's no data that they use to create this MSRP number. It's whatever number they want to attach to it that makes you feel like you are getting the best possible deal. And so what we have ended up in is we've ended up in a situation that is similar to the way the automotive world worked before the pandemic, but way overblown and way bigger than that. We're seeing discounts off of MSRP that are absolutely astronomical, that are a third of the price of the boat. And that doesn't make any sense whatsoever because there's not a difference in variance in how much somebody is paying for a specific model of a boat that will vary as much as $70,000. Now, it might when you're talking about a totally stripped down version and a fully optioned out one, but for the same boat with the same options, you think somebody's going to walk into a dealership or that there's a dealership out there somewhere in the United States that's charging $70,000 more than this other dealership for the exact same boat? No, that's not the case. And to be totally straightforward, as somebody who owns and operates a dealership, dealers don't make anywhere near that kind of margins on the boats. When we're talking about adding another third to the price of the boat, there's no way. Like, we're not running on 50% margins. I can tell you that very clearly. So when it comes to it, is MSRP a number that you should even be paying attention to? Well, there's some pieces to describe on this, but the short answer to that question is absolutely not. And in fact, the more that you fixate on that MSRP number, or even worse, the discount off of that MSRP number, the more that you fall into the trap that MSRP was created specifically to appeal to. Let me show you some details. We oftentimes have it to where people will come in and they'll be comparing different notes between different boat brands and how good of a deal that they're getting based on the MSRP figures. Let's say you have somebody that's coming in and looking at a Mastercraft X24, they're looking at a Centurion RI245, and they're looking at a Malibu M240. These are all fairly similar boats that are in a similar type of price bracket. And so then it comes down to the question of going, okay, well, which one is the better deal between the three? And what will happen is that there are times that people will come in and go, okay, well, I've got this Mastercraft X24. The MSRP on it is $350,000, and they're willing to sell it to me for $280,000. So they're getting $70,000 off that MSRP number. On the Centurion, they're coming in and going, well, this boat here is $240,000, and so it's a little bit less than this Mastercraft. And the MSRP on it is $290,000. So they're getting $50,000 off of MSRP on that Centurion. Then you have over here, you have a Malibu where the MSRP on the boat is $330,000, and they're willing to sell it for $230,000. So it's a $100,000 discount on MSRP. Well, if you look at those three in isolation, you look at it and go, well, the Malibu's the best deal. They're giving you a huge discount. It's not only the least expensive, the discount off MSRP is the largest. And that is true. It is the least expensive, and the discount off MSRP is the largest in this scenario. But does it mean it's the best deal? That's the challenge with looking at each one of these together as a group. You assume that they're using the same metrics to determine what that MSRP number is. And that is not the case. Like I said, it's an arbitrary made-up number. A lot of times the manufacturer will go, yeah, we'll set it here at this percentage. And other manufacturers may be using totally different metrics to determine that MSRP number. So it's entirely possible that when you look at the structure of what people are paying for, what the market values are, and things of that nature, that the Centurion, which has the least discount off of MSRP in that scenario, is actually a better deal than the Malibu is with a much bigger discount off MSRP, because they don't use the same factors for determining what MSRP is in the first place. This is how the MSRP discussion got a bit out of control. It used to be that you'd be getting 5% off, maybe 10% off of an MSRP number. Where now we're seeing discounts as much as 30, 35% off of MSRP. And that's just crazy, because a dealership is not only having those discounts, they're also making enough to where it's profitable for them to sell that boat. And I can tell you, dealerships don't sell boats and make 35% on them. And so how are they doing that structure? It's because they're overinflating the MSRP more and more and more and more to make you feel like you're getting a good deal. And really what ends up happening is that the more you pay attention to that MSRP number, chances are the more you're overpaying for that boat, especially if you are paying attention to it and segmenting it out and trying to compare between multiple brands that use totally different methodologies for establishing that MSRP number. So, back to the original question, should you pay attention to MSRP? I would strongly recommend that you do not pay attention to MSRP unless you are comparing MSRP between the exact same boats. So if you have one Malibu that you'd be looking to buy for $200,000, and another Malibu that you'd be looking to buy for $220,000, at that point you could get the MSRP numbers and kind of compare and see which one's a little bit better deal between the two. But that's going to be the only way that it makes any sense. If you try to do cross-brand MSRP comparisons, you're going to end up with really bad data and really bad information. Now, what can you do about this? Well, you can't really do much of anything other than just don't pay attention to MSRP. Now, can dealerships do? Well, we at Boardco have decided to sidestep, and there's a couple other dealers that are doing a similar thing to us, and we are effectively eliminating MSRP altogether. So if you come in and get a price quote, whether you look on the Centurion Custom Boat Builder on the Boardco website, or if you're looking at our inventory, or if you come into our store, or if you have a phone call or send an email or a text message, whatever. If you're interacting with somebody at Boardco, if you give a price on a boat, that is not going to be an MSRP price. That's going to be our price that we have already set and decided this is how much of a margin we need to have on this boat to make it worthwhile to sell. And it's already going to be a significantly discounted number off of MSRP. And what that is going to vary depending on the structure of the MSRP for that calendar year. When you start looking and breaking down MSRP, how certain dealers will use it in order to make it so that you feel like you're getting a good deal, it's also a way of trying to hide and not provide as transparent a pricing, which is something that we at Boardco have gone, once again, the opposite approach on. You can go and create an account on the Boardco Boats website, and you can go and look at inventory with actual pricing of what you could pay for that actual boat right there on the website when you create an account. We're trying to create transparency so that we're not saying, hey, we're going to mark this boat up 7% higher than this other boat over here just because we like the color on it better, or because it's a more in-demand color or has different features or whatever it is. That's not the way that we want to portray and show that to our customers. But it is a little bit of an adjustment. To be totally straightforward here at Boardco, it is a difficult thing for us to convey properly to customers, because what happens is they go and look at MSRP, and especially if they'll go and looking at a different boat brand, such as a Malibu, and they're seeing $70,000 off an MSRP number, they want to know how much of an MSRP discount are they getting off of our boats. We've even had the discussion of talking with the Centurion factory and saying, hey, let's inflate all of our MSRP numbers another 40% so that you could have a $180,000 boat that we're giving you a $200,000 discount off of MSRP on. It's completely ridiculous. It makes no sense. It's absolutely insane. But it's what ends up happening when you have a system that's gone completely out of control and they are doing nothing but continuing to inflate MSRP numbers specifically for marketing purposes to make it you feel like you're getting a better deal. The best example of this is if you go on different manufacturers' websites, such as Malibu's, they're not listing an MSRP number on any of their boats because they don't want you to think that that's actually what those boats sell for, because it's not. It's just some made-up number. So I will throw in as a caveat, and this is a piece, it did used to be used, MSRP used to be used as a calculation for determining loan values. So they would go in and say, hey, you have a boat that's got an MSRP of $100,000. Let's say you're buying it for $90,000. They used to go and factor and say, oh, you're getting a $10,000 discount off of MSRP. Banks have gotten a little bit smarter and no longer allow dealers to use that. They now use a certain term called dealer invoice, where you actually have to report to the bank the exact dollar figure that the dealership pays for that boat. And that's what they do all their calculations off of, because they've learned that MSRP, once again, is a completely fictitious number. So banks don't use it. Therefore, you probably shouldn't use it to determine whether you're getting a good deal, because banks don't use it to determine whether you're getting a good deal or not. They used to, but like I said, it's become an overblown problem that no longer has any real tangible value in today's age. So when it all comes down to it, when it comes to MSRP, it's probably a number that you're better off ignoring, not factoring into your purchase decision, and just not bringing into the discussion whatsoever. Particularly, don't compare different boat brands' MSRPs, because you're just going to end up with really bad information. And I really hope that you appreciate the transparency of us actually, A, telling you this information right now, but B, what we're also trying to do to alleviate this. I'm aware of some other dealers that are taking a similar approach to what we're doing, and it's a really good step in the right direction to try to make it so we don't have really weird systems that are trying to convey false information or create some sort of false perception that exists out there about things such as what kind of a deal you're getting, or how much of a discount you're getting on a particular boat or things, because we all like to feel like we're getting a great deal. And if we feel like we're getting the same deal as anybody else, that for whatever reason doesn't really sit right for us. We're special, we're unique, we're different. We expect a better deal than anybody else would typically get. But what ends up happening is that in many cases, by having this fixation on MSRP, you're actually getting a worse deal than just about anybody else is. It's just getting masked under the facade of this fictitious MSRP number that's trying to convey that you're actually special, that you're getting a good deal. So that's the reason why guys use it. That's the reason why manufacturers use it, why dealerships use it, and why we are trying to do something about it, because it just really doesn't fit well in the current day and age, because things have changed. People want price transparency. People want to understand and get all the details up front. They don't want to be sitting there in a arm wrestling negotiation with a slimeball sales guy, and we are trying to do everything we possibly can to make it so that we can streamline the process, get people a great deal, make it so that they have a great experience, and build a relationship with our customers, instead of just having this strong arm negotiation tactic that makes it so that you feel like you got beat up whenever you're coming to buy a boat. We want your experience with coming to buy a boat to be an incredible, uplifting, exciting experience, not something that you feel like you just got beat and taken advantage of during that process. So I hope this is helpful information, and that's something that you can make actionable, particularly with your next boat purchase decision, that this is something that you can have factored in. If you'd like us to cover any other similar topics to this, please leave a comment on our YouTube page, send us an email, drop us a text message, anything you'd like. We'd be more than happy to cover any and all different details that you may want to see and understand. If you'd like more information such as this, please go through and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also check us out on any other different podcast applications like Spotify or other things of that nature, as well as go to our newsletter on boardco.com, and you'll have information such as this dropped into your inbox from time to time. We promise not to send you a bunch of spam stuff. We're just wanting to get a lot of detailed information out there that will help you have a better time out on the water. We find when we try to help people out, it builds trust and it makes it so that they're more likely to buy a boat from us. Amazing. How's that go? It's pretty great. So we hope this is really helpful and it can end up enhancing the next experience that you have when you're looking at going and buying a boat. So once again, this is Mitch from Boardco. Thanks for spending some time with us, and we'll see you later.